hosts that are saying something god-awful, wildly offensive, coming back from a break, or their microphone's still on in the green room or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. What do you think the worst possible thing is for somebody to be saying while coming back from a break, or that people overhear, the general public overhear?
Wait, you said what would be the wildest thing, or
the worst?
Oh, the worst thing to hear? I don't know. I mean,
it has to be racist, right? It has to be racist stuff,
yeah,
right?
It's got to, yeah, probably something racist or sexist. Somebody talking about, their sex life, or like something weird, like, what drugs they were on last night or something. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like, people would flip out about, especially now with the internet. I mean, people made a big deal about Hannah Storm pushing the makeup girl away from when they cut to a live shot last week on SportsCenter. And he like had to tweet out and be like, oh, like she would have gotten in a lot of trouble if she'd been on camera, like basically like I saved her job kind of thing. But it looked like, I don't know, I mean, everybody made a big deal out of it. So yeah, so if somebody said something racist or sexist coming back into the break, yeah, that would be a media firestorm.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that just to get more attention to my shows. I'm gonna pretend like I don't know that we're coming back from break and just say something wildly racist or sexist to get a little more attention. I'm just kidding, but
right, yeah.
Okay, but on to championship weekend. We got Packers Seahawks. The line is right now Seattle 7.5. Do you agree with that line? Too high, too low? What's your take on this line?
Well, my numbers have Seattle higher than 7-point favorite, especially at home. But 7 makes it. If I were running a book or a director of a sports book, I would have opened this game 7, because I know I'm going to get draw two-way action with that number. I played it personally at -7 before it went up to 7.5, and I had to lay a little extra juice on it because of it being on 7. But the number makes sense from a bookmaker standpoint. But my numbers reflect that Seattle should be at least a 10.5, 11-point favorite in this game.
What is does Week 1's game factor in at all to your bookmaking?
No, not so much. The only thing that I take away from it is Aaron Rodgers. In Green Bay, they've the last 2 games they played in Seattle, they lost. That crowd is obviously going to be a gigantic factor. So, but as far as matchups and X's and O's and even guys that are playing in the game, no, I don't look at Week 1's way too far away. In the past to look into this game now.
Do you think that's the biggest mistake bettors will make on this game, is factoring in Week 1?
No, absolutely, yeah. Or people will bring up the whole. I think this, from a mental standpoint, I was the first one to bring it up, was the Green Bay Seattle, that Monday night game with the was it a touchdown, was it an interception call? You have. There are some trends where teams struggle in certain places whenever they play. Like, for example, the Bears, every time they went to San Francisco, it seemed like not only did they lose, but they just got, their butts beat, from the Bay all the way back to Chicago. It was just ridiculous how every game they went in the San Francisco, they looked terrible. So maybe people thinking, wow, can Green Bay just really can't play in Seattle? Or is it just that these Seahawks teams have been, just really good and better than the Packers?
What colors do you think Mike Holmgren is going to be wearing during this game?
Maybe he'll just pick green, because it won't be too light of a green, it won't be too dark of a green. It'll be kind of like his neutral ground standing.
Neutral green colors.
Yeah.
As far as and I guess you could factor in Matt Hasselbeck, who would he be wearing? But as far as the over right now set at 47. Again, do you agree with that? And what's your What's your pick? Over under 47 points.
47 is fair. Obviously, like I said, Green Bay is limited. They're limiting dying by how Aaron Rodgers plays. So offensively, yes, could they, put in their share of the bargain, along with Seattle's offense. Good. They have good pieces, but they're not as dynamic as the Packers. They don't run. Packers are a little more up tempo. Like to throw the ball out more. They can go to the ground game, but you factor in the weather, it's going to be a lot of rain. The winds are supposed to be up to 15, 20 miles an hour, so that already suggests that it's going to be a ground game. So looking at that total, I would probably look under. Maybe even look first. I think the first half numbers that I saw, it was 20.5. I would look at playing possibly that first half under. Seattle doesn't start fast. That was why I played Carolina first half last week and just barely covered that number. But they don't. Yeah, Seattle takes a while to start up. They're your classic prototypical NFL offense. They like to feel out teams defensively on their first couple drives before they really start to attack and play a little more aggressively.
When you're placing bets and looking at, previous statistics and previous lines, how much do you factor in? Okay, so like week 1, you're not really factoring it in at all right now. How late in the season, like at what point do you draw the line? Like, say Seattle played Green Bay in week 12 and blew them out by 20. At what point do you start taking into account matchups? At what week?
Well, my rule of thumb in all sports is I look at past performance between, say, 5 to 7 games. And when you're talking about football, played, every week, I would go more of, say, what's happened in the last 3 or 4 games. So, yeah, especially, like I said, because the playoff atmosphere is so different from a regular season NFL game, it's got to be a lot of different, there's a lot of dynamic factors that change with that. So I'll look more at the last 3 years of the postseason for teams than I would say looking at the first 5 weeks of this current season, because even though yes, this is personnel changes from year to year, but how a team reacts in, say, a divisional game or a championship game or a playoff game on the road, that makes more of a, I use that more as a tool for handicapping playoff games.
As far as, Green Bay, Seattle, week 1, if there's any takeaways you take away from that, what are you taking away?
The biggest takeaway, like I said, was because of how big of a game that was for Seattle, like I said, getting the championship banner and the ring ceremony before the game and, open the season. It was like I said, the crowd. The crowd was the biggest thing I take away from any Seattle game. And in my rankings, Seattle has the highest home field advantage of any team in the NFL because of that. So that's literally the only thing that I take away from it. And looking at the fact that both teams can counter each other's styles offensively. Like I said, Green Bay would like to throw the ball a lot, but they have no problem handing it off to Eddie Lacy and Starks and Kuhn and letting those guys run, on the ground. But other than that, week 1 is just, it was week 1. So.
Do you think that Russell Wilson might be this next generation's Tom Brady where, he's going to win these, he's a good player, good quarterback, but, the rest of the team around him is pretty much going to win these Super Bowls. And then maybe take off later in his career. Do you get the feeling that he's kind of the new age Tom Brady?
I wouldn't compare him to Tom Brady. I don't really know what quarterback I would compare Russell Wilson to. He's he has elite level talent, but there are other quarterbacks I'd rather have than Russell Wilson. If I were building a team from scratch, I would look at having a Tom Brady, Drew Brees, even Aaron Rodgers or Andrew Luck. I think there's better quarterbacks than Russell Wilson. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He's very talented, and he can run the ball and throw. He has that added dynamic to it. But like you said, he's had great teams around him. So we'll know the true Russell Wilson when he has an average or bad team. And he plays the whole season. With the average or a mediocre club, which I think we won't see for a while because a lot of these Seahawks guys are going to be there for a bit. I think the Seahawks are going to try and hold on to a lot of these key players as long as they can. So,
okay, on to the AFC Championship game. We got our beloved Tom Brady. How many times do you think we see Giselle during this game, or do we see her at all?
We'll probably see her a few times. I'm guessing she'll probably be in a press box, maybe even in the same box as Robert Kraft, the owner. Yeah, because I don't know how many games she's out to. I can't remember the last time I've seen her on the. I guess obviously they showed her during the Super Bowl, but I don't know. That'll be interesting to see.
It's got to be disappointing for her because the first Super Bowl with the Giants, she was shown quite a bit. And then the second one, it kind of dwindled down. And I kind of feel sorry for her. Like, she's pretty hot, but she's getting up there in age. She's had a couple kids. The media starting to take notice of that. And it's going to hurt her. It's hurting her stock of getting seen on television, especially during the Super Bowl.
All right. I mean, I guess I never really thought of it that way. I'm probably one of the outside few. I think Giselle's kind of overrated as far as models go. There's definitely hotter models than Giselle. But I mean, yeah, that's that way that how that business goes. You want to see and be seen, and if she's not getting seen even during games, I don't feel sorry for her. I mean, she's got loads of money and the successful wife and kids and successful husband rather than Tom Brady. So I don't feel bad for her. But yeah, I guess it's kind of a change of the times, I guess.
Yeah, there's many more models that I would like to sleep with more than Giselle. But
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
New England, Indianapolis. New England Indy given 7. Right line, wrong line. What do you stand on this?
Oh no, this is a fair line. Once again, it's 7. 7's pretty much the standard NFL line when you talk about a postseason, because the books know that they're going to get action on both teams. They're going to get they want to get the even draw. I saw a lot of. I grabbed New England at 6.5, which I think that's what we'll see. We'll see some more action probably come in on New England closer to kickoff. But Indy will still draw a fair amount of money, especially on the money line. I think, and even going back to with the Green Bay game too, I mean, it's going to draw even action all the way to kickoff. We might see Seattle go up to 7.5 more than we would with New England. But this is a fair line for New England. Ironically enough, we're talking about looking in the past. The Colts and Patriots played in Week 11 in Indy. And Tom Brady was just tearing through that Colts secondary. Gronkowski was back, and that was, I think, that was his first completely healthy game. He was even playing through the injury. He was fine and ready. So that's a big factor that I take away from that matchup previous. You look at Indy's defense. They played against Andy Dalton in a big game. We know Andy Dalton doesn't show up for big games. Last week they played against Peyton Manning, who we didn't know until, afterward that he had a torn quad muscle. That's a very serious injury. So I'm taking, Indy's defensive performances with a few pinches of salt because, they're average. But when Tom Brady gets hot and he starts finding Gronk and Edelman and Amendola open, things can get really ugly really fast.
Are you surprised that this line wasn't closer than it was just because of the love fest with Andrew Luck right now. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but everybody's